Well, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, it's the dog with you on a Monday the 22nd. Yeah, 22nd of April, baby, 2019. And this is going to be our finale. But, you know, I got to say, yep, all you Weber haters, there's a few of you out there checking me out today. It's your day. The old Weber suck signs and the Weber suck yelling at me in a car. Yeah, I should be fired. I agree. You got your wish today as I sign off at the end of this show in about an hour. Unfortunately, you didn't get to me because I hung around for almost 50 years. Today, however, ladies and gentlemen, we reminisce with my old team about our travels, covering a lot of sports and a lot of football, basketball, and you name it, we covered it, and we had a lot of laughs along the way. Joining me today at the table, Greg Kotel, who I met in 1980 as he graduated from Syracuse University. He ended up working with us as the engineer of our sports broadcast. Dave Barnack brought him in 1975. A talented Dave Barnack, along with Jack Dipolito. And Kay had some input in that hire in 1985. And Jimmy Sinicropi is going to talk about listening to the Weber show at 7:30 while I was cutting the greens at the Seneca Falls Country Club. Joe Houck, we tried to get him in. We couldn't track him down. I'm thrilled to have some people off camera on the couch today. My wife, Mary, my good friend, Ann Kay, and I was surprised today. My daughter, Samantha's here as well. So, without further ado, welcome to Weber This Week. Good afternoon, everybody. Yeah, we've been looking forward to this for a while, and I have the cast of thousands to my right. And, you know, without these guys, it would never have been a part of our broadcast. And I'm going to start talking. First thing I'm going to talk to is my friend Dave Barnick. Dave, of course, thanks for joining us, Dave, on my finale. I know that you put your name in to take over. You wanted to take over a few months ago, do my show, but you're only going to wait until I leave. But Correct. It's nice to have you here. And Dave, in 1975, I had joined at late 69, early 70 at SFW. We obviously needed more sports coverage. You came in, did an audition, which was great. I made a mistake because I thought you were one of those tall, mean, miserable guys that could hit somebody over the head if they started giving me some lip-in bars. You wouldn't hurt a flea, but it was so glad to have you as part of our team. And when you came on, I think you even echoed to me that you were never a big fan of my show in the first place.
Something like that. I think I talked to some other people. It might have been Bob Burns. Actually.
Yeah, I think it might have been. So when you came in, Dave, you did a great audition. We hired you, and it was you and me, and then we had some little bit of technical help because Greg hadn't arrived on the scene until the 80s. You know, talk about Dave. We always got along pretty good, and I have to admit that you had some funny things to happen. Example being, we could write a lot of clip notes about some of the things you and me have run into. For example, you and me working, I can't remember if Jack was there, the Newark High School game during the snowstorm when we were assigned, and maybe Greg remembers if he was, I can't remember the year we were up there, we were told to go on top of the school building, which was adjoining that complex, and it started to snow.
And it never let up.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you think you got a tough life? How about broadcasting for 2.5 to 3 hours in a snowstorm? And somehow we survived.
We did.
And it was brutal. And also, I'm going to let Dave pick up a story where him and me went out to, was it Romulus, the monsoon?
Oh, yeah.
Was that Romulus?
Yeah.
We got there, and I think we had a piece of equipment in the backseat of one of the cars.
Nice 1971 lime green Impala.
Right. And we were rain just pouring down, and myself and Dave had the same inability to do anything technically, Jack, because as you know, we couldn't do anything. Thank God Greg came along. But Dave went to put a wire in one of those slots.
Just to plug in the electric.
And boom.
Right up my arm.
Shock City,
arm.
USA.
Yeah.
So,
I'm surprised I still have hair. So.
And then that was funny, and I remember it was at the game that we went over to your house afterwards to try to drive before the Clyde game that night.
Remember you freezing at my house that time?
I remember distinctly.
You were there shivering. We
were
soaking wet.
I walked in, your lovable wife, Patty, who left us way too early in this world, but she gave us, I remember giving us a blanket to wrap around it because we were freezing. and Jack and Greg and the ladies off camera. I remember, and Jimmy, which a class act. I remember we had to go to Clyde, Jack, to do a game that night. We only had like an hour and a half to kill, and Patty said, there's some chili I made for you in the kitchen. And so I went in, and I was quite hungry because I'd eaten quite a while. And there was a little white sheet of paper next to each bowl of chili from Dave. $7.50 without the crackers, $8.25 with.
Prices were high back then, especially for Ovid.
But Dave was all hard, Jack, still trying to make a buck on us. But I remember that well. And, of course, before we move off Dave, we need to have him reminisce about. Let me set the stage for you, and then Dave can pick up the scene at Minders Academy. As you all know, there are several owners of the WSFW radio. Sam Bunis, Bud Sewin, a couple of entrepreneurs, obviously, bought the radio station, brought in people from outside the area to run it. Bob Burns, a whole bunch of people ran it during the course of the first few years. George Sewin eventually got it from the father when the dad passed away. Then George ran it, and George sold it to Brian Rogers. Brian Rogers then sold it back to George, and then George sold the station in 2000, correct, Greg?
To the Kimballs.
To the Kimballs. Well,
that's when it moved.
Right,
Geneva.
Exactly. This one morning, I'm wrapping up my Weber on Sports show, and George Sewin was in early, and he calls me over on the way out. He goes, "Hey, Harold, I think I'll be coming up to see you guys tonight. Which game is it? It's Minders Penn Yan." I said, "Oh, you're coming up?" What are you going to say? No, he owns the place. Okay, George, what time you coming? I'll just be there when, I'll be there. And as Dave reminded me before he went on the air, he brought Jim Barrow with him, and they climbed the ladder up to, we were on the, first section?
There were three sections.
We were in the second
the
section.
Middle
section. And in comes George, decked out, because he was hosting a party at 10 p.m. that night. Believe it or not, a party started at 10, Jack. Imagine that. But George had some highfalutin people coming. And he was dressed to the nines. And he stands in the studio. We give him a headset, starts talking about everything and anything. And, of course, the good news was the score was 52-6 or something like that. Minders, Dave may have been crushing Penn Yan that year. I can't remember. But it was a lopsided game. So we had a lot of free time. So George kept on talking, and there was an opening above us, obviously, and Dave, pick it up.
Well, I think we first need to say it was our third game of the weekend. Okay. So you and I were punchy to begin with because we'd done a Friday night game with Waterloo. Right. At that time, Waterloo played Friday nights. Right. Minders played Saturdays, and then we also did an afternoon game in Ovid, South Seneca. And so, by the time you do a third game, you've worked all week. Now you've done 3 games, and you're a little punchy. And George, by the way, I don't think he had stopped at the concession stand for a Pepsi. He'd had something else somewhere else. So he was feeling his oats pretty good. Yep. And something happened, didn't go well, I think, for Minders. Yep. We hear a foot go down, a clipboard. While he's on the air, a clipboard falls down, hits him in the head, and right over the air, Jesus. He told us about our maker a little bit. He let out some expletives directly on the air, to which I responded classically because we had the Holy Rosary Hour on at that time.
Which was only a half hour.
A half-hour show. But you are, ladies and gentlemen, you are not listening to the Holy Rosary Hour.
He went ballistic.
And you and I could not stop laughing.
Oh, no, the way out.
The rest of the broadcast.
There was like 4.5 minutes to go in the game, and I started laughing. He started laughing.
We just couldn't stop.
Sewin doing this with his hand on his back of his head, and a little blood's coming out. So he took his handkerchief out, started patting it. And him and me, with, 3 minutes to go in the broadcast, we could not stop laughing. Just like this.
Greg had that tape, too, for years.
I had lots of tapes over the years.
Oh, my God.
They're all gone.
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing, and he just lost it. And then we find out it was Mark Suffragini. Oh, you're trying to kill me.
Kill me down here. What the hell is going on?
I mean, that was so funny.
It was.
So, obviously, George didn't want to come back for any more future broadcasts in the booth for a period of time.
But, I started in 1980 at the radio station, August 1980, and then got right into it going with you guys.
I know.
But it was really back in the 70s when I first heard about Harold Weber. My mother bought me a Radio Shack reel-to-reel tape deck for Christmas, and I just loved that tape deck. And so I'm taping off the radio all the time. And I had the tape of You and Who with the Dunley shot. My friends have all heard that back in the high school days. I was in high school.
72, 73.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I graduated in 76 from high school.
Right.
Should have been that was a couple years earlier.
Pat Dunley.
Shot from midcourt.
Yeah. Can you tell us about that?
It was at midcourt. He, ball got inbounded. They took a timeout. And, I think there was maybe 3 seconds or something like that left. And all of a sudden, packed gymnasium. And pass comes into Dunley, and all of a sudden, boom, throws it up in the air. Good! And it just went crazy. The crowd went nuts. And ironically, it was one of the best ones I ever had. I was asked about that when I got interviewed. I think the other one was before that. Joe DeSicco at the War Memorial Waterloo Minders sectionals for the section championship. DeSicco in overtime threw a jumper up, swish. Minders lose that game to Waterloo at the War Memorial. And ironically about the DeSicco shot, if you go back, and I had a chance to talk to Joe Spazzato, Minders had beaten Waterloo that year by 22 and 25 points that season. And at the War Memorial, DeSicco shot won the sectionals for Waterloo. Pretty amazing. So those are the two that I can recall. And I probably could think back, or I can think of a lot of other calls, but I'm sure, Dave, you've had many calls. You probably can reminisce as well. It's hard to pinpoint. Let's switch off Dave for a second. This is Weber This Week. If you just tuned in, it's my finale. We've got my old team here today, Jack Dipolito, Dave Barnack, along with Greg Kotel. Jimmy Sinicropi is going to have some comments about his role of listening to my morning show. But, Greg, I met you in the 80s, obviously. You graduated from Syracuse, ended up with WSFW. And Greg, by the way, is still doing news at, 4 a.m. in the morning?
My alarm goes off at 3. I'm in the building at 4. And we're doing the news on WGVA. WSFW moved up to the Finger Lakes Radio Group.
Right.
It's part of that now. It's a lot of different call letters have come and gone. But so I'm there, and then I'm full-time at Hobart William Smith, running 2 radio stations there.
Well, moved up is subjective, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I got to drive up the hill to get there.
Well, Greg, when he started, we hit it off right away, and he was assigned by the station management. I think he enjoyed going out with us to set up the broadcast because he knew that myself and Jack and Dave, eventually, we couldn't do anything right, technically, so Greg was there to make sure we could get on the air. And I remember, Greg, we were doing a game in Canada. It was a sectional game up on top of the balcony. And, Greg, explain to our viewers what it was like to try to set up broadcast. You had to order a phone line?
That was before I got there.
Okay, then what happened?
That's what you did in Bob Burns days.
Right, ordered a phone line.
But then we've got a transmitter.
Right.
So we actually had a transmitter that we carried around.
Right.
And a couple different antennas that we would set up, and we would actually broadcast from the site, wherever we were, back to Seneca Falls, and that would feed back out through the radio, and that's how you would get it. And, of course, none of you guys knew anything about
Of course not. Of course not.
I fell off many bleachers, a roof in Auburn once, putting up the antenna. So, and we'd have to get up high. If we were in Ovid, we'd put the antenna on top of the scaffolding out there in Ovid to get back. Because it had about a 30. It has about a 30-mile range or so. So depending on where we were.
I remember.
You guys put headphones on. That's all you did. You look good in headphones still.
Thanks. I do. Thank you. But I remember you and me at that Canandaigua. I remember up on top of that balcony. We had some issues with the equipment or something happened, and you got us on the air a little late because it wasn't your fault. We had some technical issues. And I was excited about calling this game. It was supposed to be a good game. And we get up there, and Greg says, "We're not getting a signal. Something's going on here." Just didn't. I go, "What?" So I pick up a chair, just him and me up on the top of the balcony, and I toss it to the other side of the balcony. Greg says, "You're upset?" "Upset? Yeah, we want to get on the air right on time." But Greg finally got us on after the first quarter. But it wasn't his fault. It was something technical that happened, Greg, I remember. And you got it figured out, but it wasn't early enough to get the game started.
Well, you got a better memory than me.
Oh, I remember that one. By the way, for Greg Kotel fans, I was sort of like his big brother. Why was that? Because I always admired his ability to literally get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, cover a story. This guy was phenomenal. 2 bells, he'd be out and covering a fire or covering a car accident, and he would have it before anybody had it, and they had his neck. One of his problems was that sometimes he was responsible for turning on the radio station at 6 a.m. Yeah. For you folks that know George Sewin or have heard about him, he had this temperament that he would get up at 5:30, and at 6 a.m., not talking Jack 6:02, 6 a.m., he better hear the station coming on. Well, guess what? My good friend Greg since I was his big brother, he had a little problem once in a while, not quite getting it on at 6. So at 6:08, who gets the call? Me. Where's your buddy Cotteril? So I don't know. He said, the station's not on. I could tell, George. I turned it on. Nothing's there. Don't see nothing. So he had, where did you live? On Miller Street?
Yeah, we were on Miller Street at the time. I remember you waking me up a couple times.
Waking you up. I dragged his ass out of bed. Wake up. I dragged him literally, sheets and everything. I said, hey, got a call from your grandfather, George Sewin. Yeah. He's not too happy. So we got him over to the studio. He signed on about 20 minutes late. And Sewin see me on the street. You better talk to Greg. I know you're friends with him, but I said, and I used to tell him to save him. There's more stories regarding Greg, by the way. I used to tell him, hey, you know what? Listen, nobody's gonna. If you fire Greg Kotel today, who's gonna come in at what you're paying him to go out at 3:00 in the morning to cover news like he always covers? And I always would say that because Greg did it. Well, you got a good point. So. The other one was
that $100 a week, by the way, when I started. That was a different time, so it went a little bit further than it would today.
But the classic was Bruce Springsteen, the weekend.
Thanks to you and Mary.
Mary and me show up he does a back-to-back nighter. Bruce Springsteen at the Dome. We were going on Friday night, me and Mary.
You pushed me over the seat, and I broke my leg.
I did not. I'm walking around the Dome. Of course, Greg's an SU grad, and he's obviously with his buddies from SU. All of a sudden, I look up, and here he comes, turning down the railing. I slow him down. I go, oh, Greg, how you doing? Oh, I'm having a great time. And he had a few ginger ales by then. Yeah, and I went, oh, really? And Mary met him and said, now this is Friday night, Jack. We're not even starting the performance yet with Bruce. So Bruce comes on. Oh, before Greg leaves me, he goes, I said, I'll see you Monday morning. He goes, well, I'm coming back tomorrow night. I got back-to-back tickets. I go, so I quickly called the Dipolito odds makers and said, what are the odds that Greg Kotel will be turning on the station at 6 a.m. on Monday? And you would have given odds 100. How about 100,000 to 1? So Monday morning comes. The station, forget about it. He must have just pulled bomb on it because they ain't going to open at 6 a.m. because Greg was nowhere to be found. You know where he was? Still in Syracuse.
Yep, still there.
All of a sudden,
I hurt my leg that night.
Good.
The second night.
Well, my ears got hurt when Sewin called me.
Well, when I came in, it was all swollen up and showed him.
He didn't care.
No, he didn't care.
He had you and me go visit him, if you remember correctly. He went over to his office. He goes, Harold, I about had it. Where is that idiot? I said, I don't know. I saw him over the weekend. He was at the Bruce Springsteen concert. You think he's still there? The odds are pretty good, George. Let me see if I can find him. So I made some calls. Couldn't get a hold of him. Finally, I got a hold of him. I said, you coming back to Seneca Falls? He finally showed up later in the day, and he's hobbling. I said, you ain't seen the worst kind of injury yet. Yeah. We got to go see Sewin tomorrow morning. And, oh, my God, when he was office, and I think he wanted to fire him. And, boy, I tell you what, I was his big brother, but I went to his defense for the final time. I said, George, let's give him another shot. And surprisingly, he chewed me out for trying to give him another shot. I said, he does a great job, and, he just has a good time and sometimes forgets to open up the station. Yeah. We had some good times. I mean, God, Greg, him and me go back a long time, but it was funny. He really pushed the panic button with old Mr. Sewin. But I'll tell you right now, you got to give credit where credit is due. That guy was out on covering those stories in godly hours. By the way, you still do 4 a.m., right? 4 a.m.?
4 a.m. every day. No problem getting up anymore. You don't have to come over.
Who the hell listens at 4 a.m.? Farmers, what?
Yep.
Oh, my God, 4 a.m.
I'm just going to bed a lot of times. 77 Sunset Strips on some old channels,
Well, listen, it's 19 after the hour. We're going to talk to my buddy Jack Dipolito. How did he get hired at WSFW? And what was the true indicator that took the percentages his way? This is Weber This Week, the finale. Don't go anywhere. Del Lago Resort and Casino has something for everyone. 2,000 slot machines, 99 gaming tables, The Vine featuring top national music and comedy acts, the dining options, the Great Portico by Fabio Viviani, the Farmers Market Buffet, the Social Cafe and Bar, and the 14,000 square foot European-style spa. Del Lago offers massages, body treatments, and facials, plus a full-service salon. Visit DelLagoResort.com for more information. Eagle Lake National Bank. offices in Union Springs and Aurora. A fine sponsor of mine for over 35 years. Great staffing at Cayuga Lake National Bank. Check them out. DA's Liquor on Bridge Street in Seneca Falls. Amy Padula and her team will find the right spirit for you every time. When you stop in, tell Amy the dog sent you. By the way, the Padula family has been a sponsor of mine for 33 years. Bostrom Farms is a butcher shop focused on providing fresh local meat to the Finger Lakes region. The retail store is located on Routes 5 and 20 in Stanley. They offer a full range of pork, beef, and chicken products that you can fuel. Buying food for your family should be fun. At Bostrom Farms, we put the fun and trust back into buying meat. The McGee Diner, located off New York State Thruway, exit 41. The McGee Diner has earned their reputation as a popular family restaurant, serving country fresh home-cooked meals daily. Stop in for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and check out their menu at McGeeDiner.com. And I thank Gary and Kathy Schlegel for their fine support of Weber This Week. Seneca Metals is an award-winning company that has earned a reputation of going above and beyond to protect the environment and support their community. As an EPA inspector once said, their operation is head and shoulders above the rest. The Child Advocacy Center of the Finger Lakes is a child-friendly location where allegations of physical or sexual abuse are responded to by a multidisciplinary team of professionals. The team works together to conduct a thorough investigation and to provide necessary support services to children and their non-offending caregivers with a goal of minimizing further trauma to a child. The Newark Pilots are the Perfect Game Collegiate Baseball League, a minor league team with a major league ballpark. Season ticket packages available at NewarkPilots.com. The Omen Theater on William Street in Lyons. See what's playing this week at theomentheater.com, a fine sponsor of Weber This Week. The Wilson Press in Seneca Falls. My good pal Rich Rickey and his team can handle all of your printing and mailing needs. Visit them online at wpress.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's a dog with you for our finale. It's about 23 minutes after the hour. Speaking of sponsors, I'm going to run one by you. We have another great sponsor that's finishing off my show here during the month of April, and I'm talking about Cicino's. Live, laugh, eat well. It's the Italian way. It's also the Cicino way. Locations in Waterloo, Geneva, and at Del Lago Resort and Casino. The Franzone family and their employees will provide you excellent food, service, and at reasonable prices. So thank you to the Franzones. By the way, before I go to Jack and talk about his career and how he got into WSFW, I should point out with sponsors, I've been very fortunate working with Jimmy here the last 8 years, getting sponsors for this program. Had no real problem when I was with SFW. We had some great people that sponsored our shows. But, I want to just highlight two of them, if I may, from pretty incredible records if you think about sponsorship. A lot of Dave Barnick, and I'm sure a lot of Jimmy knows Billy Ryan, the banker, passed away some time ago. Sorely missed Dave.
I was talking about him today, as a matter of fact.
One of the greatest guys in the world.
Super nice guy.
I met him, 40, maybe 45 years ago. I was trying to get into the Gould Invitational. It was a big money tournament I was trying to get in, and there was no shot, and he found a way to get us in. And had a little business with him over the years. Just a nice guy. I asked him to sponsor my radio show way back when. He said, yep. And when I decided to go to Jim here, I asked him if he'd sponsor this show. He said, yep. So I had to show him, on the internet what he would do, pushfingerlakes1.com. My point is, he's been with us, before I leave this afternoon in about 30 minutes, he has been with me, even after his death, 34 consecutive years. 34. Think about that. I know he's a bank, but still, Jack, to sponsor somebody that long consecutively. And one other kudos goes out with roses is the Padula Liquor Store in Seneca Falls. Talk about sponsorship. Way back when I did Weber on Sports, I approached Mr. and Mrs. Padula. They used to hang out, or Mr. Padula used to hang out at Marino's Pool Hall, the legendary place where I was brought up. And he sponsored my Weber on Sports show. along with his wife. When they passed on, Amy took over the business, and I approached Amy and said, is there any chance you'd like to continue your sponsorship? She said, absolutely. 33 years in a row. So you talk about sponsorship. So as I leave in 30 minutes or so, I must say those two were the class of the act. I mean, think about it. So I do.
She told me the other day, thanks.
Yeah, I know. She said
for
you were
the Christmas card. Every year you send her.
Yeah, I always send her a card.
Nice.
I always try to send one to all the sponsors. I never took them for granted. They always were great, and I always tried to write them a nice note to thank them. All right, my friend, now we're going to move the cameras to Jack, and then we're going to talk to Jimmy about some things, and we'll go back to Dave and Greg. But Jack, in 1985, or I guess, I can't remember exactly, we were expanding our sports coverage, as you know. You had heard me and Barnick doing our thing, along with maybe some other people in the studios at the time, and it simply opened up opportunities, as you know, with a hot bevy of sports, none better than Clyde Savannah. And we didn't zero in on you because of that, but I had a member on my show asking for people that want to come in, do an audition, and we would add them to our sports team. You came in, and I remember you and a couple others, I think, sent an audition or taped an audition. And I remember, and why? Because Ann K., my good friend, is off camera with my wife Mary and Samantha. I mentioned that earlier. But Ann and Charlie K. come over, and I wasn't really sure because I had the cassette recorder, and I pushed it down and kept playing these auditions, and I was caught between a rock and a hard place of which way to go. And Ann we were on the front porch at 50 Green Street. Ann's laughing because she remembers it well. And she said, well, you got auditions? I said, yeah, why don't you let me hear them? So I pushed the button, and we heard the voices, and she said to me, that voice there, that's Jack Dipolito. That's your man. So, Ann, yeah, give her an extra hug on the way out, will you? That was her. So Ann K. made the call, and they said, we got a hold of you, and you became a member of our team. And Jack, as I think back on some of your legendary stories, and when you joined the team, I mean, hey, mister is your phenomenal line. You do that a lot, right? Hey, mister, I love that. But, as I look back on your career, as you and Dave and me got together, and Greg, for you folks that don't know, he worked in the Social Security office in Geneva, New York. And
he loved it.
Oh, God. He used to just
he
bury.
Retiring.
Oh, my God. I swear to God, he was so hysterical.
He's good.
He would get into booth, Greg, and start saying, he'd rush from the Social Security office and he'd not even go home, right? Come to a game. Get him on the air. If the game was boring or even if it was tight, he'd start talking about Social Security. I said, how many white-haired people come in today, Jack? And he'd go, T-minus 64.
Well, it wasn't so many of the white-haired people. It was so many people that can't work. All of us sitting here in this room here today come from pretty good work ethic. Everybody in the world, it seemed to me, coming to my desk anyway, they couldn't work. They were disabled. They wanted the free money. And you do that for 30 years and see how much you like it. That's all I got to say about that.
Everybody wants to rule the world.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Greg and myself and Dave used to get hysterical. We'd get you going about, because I used to try to prompt you by saying, how was your day at Social Security? And you say, don't go there, dog. And then you start ranting and raving.
Yeah, the intensity would ratchet up. You could get that response from me. No doubt about it.
Every time I go by that, I think of you, honest to God. Well, there was one thing that Jack Dipolito did is he told the way it was. He never backed down from commentaries or constant criticism of anyone who wanted to lay it on him. And we took a lot of it. As obviously, maybe Dave didn't get as much as myself and Greg and Jack. But I remember to this day, we were doing a Waterloo game, and Joe Spazzato. Joe Spazzato. I talked to him the other day leading up to this finale, and Joe had this little rag, little towel or something. It wasn't a very big one. Remember, Greg? He would go up and down the sidelines if his team wasn't playing well. He'd throw it at a kid, or he would throw it on the floor, or he would throw it at one of the officials. And Dipolito was working a game with us one night, and I went, Joe's going crazy. And Dave edges on, goes, yeah, he's losing it. Dipolito goes, you mean the little general? That stuck. The little general.
It did.
Joe's mother hated it. just hated it and hated you for bringing it up every broadcast. The little general, they just lost it. And Joe's wife said, well, he's only having fun with him. Yeah, but he's got to give it up. And I'd see Joe. And it's, Dave, remember we used to go down to that place? It's no longer there on the way on 5 and 20, leaving Waterloo to the right side with all the coaches would come over. Can't think of the name, but it fell over. Second chance. It fell over, remember? And I think Dave and me are in there, and maybe you were in Jack. I don't think you were with us because in comes Pizzato and Lincoln and those coaches after the game. And Joe would come up. My mother just called and said he said Little General again. I said, yeah, guess what? He's going to say Little General, probably continuous. He's not going to get off that. And you never did.
No. I just thought with his fiery, and I love Joe. And his wife Laura and I go way back to the college in days, So I thought I could get away with them calling Joe the General because he was so into trying to will his team to win at times.
I know.
And that just seemed to be like, he's the general.
Yeah. He had the Rowdy Massimino look.
Yeah.
I see Laura all the time at Hobart and William Smith, so the next time I cross her in the hall, I'll say, how's the little general doing?
Well, one story on Joe Spizzato that he still admits, and we're going to talk to Jimmy about his recollection of the show. But I remember, thinking about this with Spizzato, he was enamored regarding, how you brought him up. When you ask him for an interview, once in a while he'd say, all right, if he'd lost, sometimes he wouldn't come up. But it was funny, you think back on it, and I worked for UB, Robert Ubriaco, which Dave knows and everybody kind of knows. He passed away some time ago, way too young as well. And UB officiated the games, and I worked for UB at Gould's. And he come into my office one day, and he says, I said, what's your assignment tonight? He says, Minders Waterloo, in Waterloo. I went, really? You guys calling the game? I yell, I'm calling the game. Okay, good luck, UB. I'm thinking, you better call a good game, because the little general's going to be ready. Honest to God, I think Dave remembers this game. UB's trying to do a good job, up and down, fast-paced, up and down game. And all of a sudden, I look over, and there's Dave, I can't remember, a couple minutes left in the game. It was crucial, 1 or 2 point scenario difference. And UB made a call against Waterloo, and it didn't look like a foul to us from the booth. And UB called it on Waterloo, and Spizzato did his up and down, throwing the rag and screaming and yelling. Well, he made 2 calls like that. Waterloo lost by a point to Minders. And I said to Dave as we were wrapping up, and Greg was helping us wrap up, and we're getting out of there, and I said, this is going to get ugly. I don't know if UB's ever going to see Waterloo or Minders again. As it turns out, I did not know that Joe Spizzato also had responsibilities of assigning where you would go to officiate. He had the authority, sending you, Dave, and Greg, the ladies on the couch, you're going out here, you're going here. That's where your assignment, that was his role. I never knew that until that happened. So that same play, second chance, he was furious. His face was beet red, color of your shirt, and he comes up to me and goes, who's that idiot? I said, well, I work for him, at Gould's. UB. I said, well, I said, it was kind of close calls. Close calls, my foot. He started screaming. He said, I'll tell you right now, dog, let me tell you something. I know you work for that guy. He said, but I hope he had a good time at Waterloo Gymnasium because he'll never see Waterloo or Minders or anything in this area again. The next year, true story, UB gets his copy of his schedule. He has an envelope, comes down. He's proud to show me his schedule because he's telling me all his games. And I kind of knew it was coming, but I didn't want to tell him. After all, I did work for the guy. He opens up this envelope, but here's a schedule. Sodas, Marion, Snow Country, Williamson. I don't know, Dave, think of some other areas out in God-forsaken area.
Marion,
you
North
name it.
Rose.
North Rose. I mean, Greg, where you'd never want to go even on a sunny day.
Red Creek.
He had all those games way out.
104.
Right, exactly.
And he lived out my way, so he lived in Ovid.
Exactly. And UB goes, oh my God, some kind of a misprint. And I knew that they were going to hammer him, which Spizzato never forgot. He assigned the officials.
The little general pulled rank, huh?
He did. And I think UB, suck it up. You got to do these games. And, I kind of looked at him and said, UB, maybe didn't like a couple of your calls, whatever. I didn't know he had the authority to assign you to these games. Oh my God! And Dave's right. He had to do like 150-mile-an-hour trips to go to a game. But Joe had a good memory, and he never forgot. You know,
people don't realize in those days the intensity of those games.
Oh, they
and
are
the crowds, and much more than many of them today.
Let's not get off Spazzato before we get to Jim. One thing I just thought about: the 4-foot entrance to the Waterloo broadcast booth. The midget entrance. Remember, Jack?
That, I figured.
Remember, Jack? You were on that. Remember? I couldn't believe every time, ladies and gentlemen, the Waterloo High School, before they finally...
Lafayette Field,
finally they got it a little taller than 4'1" entrance. And I would go up there being 5'11" and a half, and I never, ever remembered it was 4'1", because bang! You'd come up, right, Jack?
I could feel the bruises.
Jack, you'd come up, bang! And we would just let out on the air, right there. Come on, Joe, you had a multi-million-dollar school district here, you know. And they can't afford a press box where normal people with normal height could get through. Oh, man, I took so many rights, I was begging for a laugh, getting my head every time going there. And finally, I don't know, Dave, when it was, they finally increased the size of it so we could get in there.
When they built the new one. I don't remember that. I remember, it feels sore just you talking about it.
But I know Dave made fun of me when I did what Mary always told me not to do. Sometimes you should make a prediction of Waterloo Minders games, because I always picked Minders. And Mary and me got blessed with 3 dozen eggs at 50 Green Street a couple of times. And then Mary said to me one night when I got a call at 2 a.m. from a drunk from... up in Geneva there, your Irish bar there.
Gallagher's?
So Mary would always say to me on the Waterloo Minders game, don't pick anybody. When I always listen to her and I go on the air and say, pick Minders today. So I go to Waterloo to the game. Barnick's upstairs, couldn't take much for Dave, start laughing. And there's 2 ladies, they had too many ginger ales before the broadcast, and they're yelling, you suck! And I'm looking at Dave, they're talking to me. And they were. And, of course, Minders lose, which, of course, another prediction I made wrong. And those women were just waiting for me on the way out and leaving the stadium. You never write, you stop it. Okay, lady, have another drink. So, it's just the way it is. But, all right, let's move over to Jimmy. Jimmy, of course, been with him for 8 years. I've known him forever. We met up at Parker's, right, Jimmy? Yeah, you came in. We talked about this network and the thought of coming on.
Well, Finger Lakes One,
right?
We're started as just a website where we print and have photos, but to me, it was always wanted to do everything that we could,
right?
And so when the technology came to the point where we could stream live shows or sports,
that was great.
I knew that I wasn't ready to be an anchor on a show or a broadcast. So there's one guy I knew that it was, and it was you. And so at that time, your show was, I think, on Sunday mornings on the radio stations, and so you came over, and the rest is history. We have 14, 15 different podcasts. We do 43 live basketball games a year.
Amazing.
But that first year we did basketball, we did 3 games, and it was you and Matt Verkey for each game.
Yes.
And that was the start of it all.
And tell our listeners, or tell our viewers, I should say, about your experience with the Weber on Sports Show. You said you worked at the Seneca Falls Country Club for quite a few years, and one of your jobs was cutting the greens early in the morning.
Yeah, well, we'd start at 6 a.m., and I always looked forward to, I'd had my Sony Walkman in there with my cassettes, but whatever it was 7:30 a.m., I would put on WSFW and listen to Weber on Sports. And I loved it because you'd always talk about either things that were happening in a golf league down there, or people I knew, or local high school or local college sports. It was just stuff that that we knew that you could touch. It was like local media. And so that's one reason, I'm sure, why I like doing what we do now.
Yeah, I know.
And the same thing, I remember listening to Dave and Jack call Minders sectional semifinal game from the Blue Cross Arena. It was, I must have been a freshman or an 8th grader in high school, and I remember sitting at home in my bedroom shooting Nerf hoops, listening to them call that game. Mm-hmm. David Rutz was on that team, and Dave Helpard, and just that type of, I don't know, true local media. And now we're overrun with national media. I mean, it doesn't matter what sport you want to watch. There's a channel for it, and there's 3 radio Sirius XM channels for it, but there's still not a lot of local. The true local media has diminished. Yeah. There's less options.
No, you're right.
And so one thing that we try to do here is bring more of that, as an option for local residents. But it all did start.
George Sewin had the quote, right? It's better to cover
Seneca County?
A dog fight in your backyard than an international story or something like that.
It was all local with George. And
Jim, I think I remember going back even further, probably before Finger Lakes won, we did a game together in the Rochester War Memorial.
Oh, yeah,
radio,
Dave and Jack were there.
Dave and Jack, and you put it on the internet, I think.
Yeah, that was before Finger Lakes won. It was just Seneca Falls online, and we did a live chat, simultaneous with their broadcast.
That's what it was. You were,
yeah. And we had to bring up a giant monitor and a big desktop computer. That had to be... like 1999.
Because I was keeping them on the air and talking to you, and you were chatting away, typing with people.
Yeah, that was a long time
innovative,
ago. Right?
That was innovative though at the time.
But it's funny. I think about George and some of the funny things that have happened to us. Dave mentioned it. I don't remember the year the WSFW van was purchased. Dave, do you have any idea when it was?
I'd say late 70s.
Was it? Because Greg said he came in 80, wasn't there?
No.
Early 80s?
It was early 80s. Doug Auer, Mike
Smith put it together.
It was a long, full-size.
Minivan.
Yeah.
It was all decked out with swivel chairs inside.
It was
the
neat.
Counter was the idea was the broadcast from inside.
It had the counter,
the counter and the shag carpet.
It was nice.
Chairs.
Until we had that, I always had to drive because
he had a little. Before electric cars were fashionable, he had one about the size of a shoebox. So. Ford Fiesta, I remember, was one of your.
But you did let him drive once in Geneva, didn't you?
Well, no, I got a key to the van back then. Because George got me a key because I said, hey, I may want to take the boys on the travel because you couldn't do it. Oh, yeah, get your key. So I had a key. And a couple of things about that. My beautiful daughter Samantha's off camera, but we promised that we would take her to a concert. And I decided she made a choice of where we were going to go. And I said to Mary, well, I have a key to the van, and it was pretty much brand new. It hadn't been around very long. I said, well, we'll pack in Sam and all her friends, and you and me, and we'll go over and have some fun. Okay, so I had to drive the van, pick up all the guys, Sam and all the girls, drove them in the thing, go to the concert, and it wasn't Peter, Paul, and Mary that they went to see.
Kingston Trio.
So me and Mary were sitting in the stands, and the main group, Aerosmith, Sam, or was it Aerosmith performing? Who the hell knew them back then? And you could smell the marijuana or whatever it was, weed, I don't know, but you smelled something. And all of a sudden, me and Mary are up in the crowd, and you see the little flask, Jack, everywhere you turn around, there's a little flask. They don't have soda in there. And me and Mary are sitting there going, oh my God. The band comes out at 10. I have to work the next morning. I got a new van that's parked on the parking lot. And I'm thinking, Greg, as I depart to go out with Sam and Mary and her friends, the hubcaps will be gone, the tires will be gone, the main window will be slashed. And so we finally got out of, God only knows what time it was. I'm walking out and I'm so pleased. And the van was still in one piece. And literally, I was just a nervous wreck, and I couldn't believe it. And I thought, oh my God, I can't do this again. And then to Barnick's point, one night after I had the van, I said, well, let's go to Burger King, boys, I'm driving. So I drove the van, and as I make the turn at Burger King, the little just a slight little scratch on the left side of the van.
You drove it your way.
and I remember going, and so I had to tell Sue the next day. I had to fess up. I said, George, you took the van last night to the game. I said,
I made the mistake of letting Joe Houck drive.
I said, I got to be honest with you, just a little scratch on it. If you now looked at it, it was about this long, Don't worry about it, Harold. I'll take care of it. Oh, thank God, So after that, I told Mayor, no more personal appearances from the family that I could drive that. But, he was funny, and George always tried to take care of it. But let's not go off the air today, Dave, without talking about the 100-yard dash. Do you want to talk about it, or you want me to bring it up? The challenge that I made of you. We were in the booth.
I said I could beat you in the race.
Yeah, you said
your
that.
Your eyes lit up.
I did lick up the Christmas tree. We're in the booth one night. Greg, were you there?
Yes, I was.
You set it up. You set the
out in Ovid.
Yeah, he says to me, "I can beat you in a 100-yard dash." And Dave's, back then was a lot bigger than he was today. He's, you've lost a lot of weight. You're a big boy then. Weren't you an all Section 5 athlete, football player, or something like that?
I had my moments on the football field and basketball courts.
Well, he got ridiculous one day during a broadcast that he could beat me in a 100-yard dash. Now, I was on the Miners Trek team for 2 weeks until I got cut by drinking a Coors Light on the way home. But I thought I had pretty good speed, and Greg said, do I feel like a challenge is coming on here? So I turned to Cotteril. I said, you set up the route. We're playing for $5 next game here. That wasn't the next time we went over to wherever we went to.
It was out in Ovid. It was a great sunny day.
So the sunny day. So Cotteril said it's on. Barnack versus Weber, 100-yard dash before we went on the air. Greg start the start line, at the finish line. And he goes 1, 2, 3. I blew him away. I blew him
like Secretariat.
I mean, hey, he's still running, as they say.
Yeah.
So Barney gave me the $5. I still have it home in the bedroom.
Without all that other Weber gold. Right?
Yeah, right. Well, we got about 15 more minutes. But, Jack, as you think about all the times we had together, there were some miserable moments regarding the weather. But you, me, and Greg and Dave, when we all worked as a team, or if it was just you and me, or me and Dave, or you and Dave, it was fun. I mean, you got to think about it. It was funny. We had some miserable weather conditions, but it was a lot of laughs.
Oh, absolutely. Great times. And, like you said, without Greg,
none
of us
would have survived.
Can't spell technical, let alone try to do anything, And that was the great thing about this stuff.
Yeah.
We just went to the games.
Yeah, we just did it.
We prepare what we had to do to talk about the teams and everything, and not have to worry about the equipment.
Oh, no, he took care of it.
And we were like light years ahead of everybody because Greg would get out on the field and interview coaches. Nobody else was doing that stuff.
Oh, I know.
And
setting up the phone lines, I think I could manage that, but some of the stuff that Greg did that was so well.
By 1980, we got rid of the phone lines.
He did the remotes.
Right.
Yeah,
and we did the scoring replays, which nobody was doing.
That was beautiful. Yeah,
no, it was great.
But he'd do the on-field interviews too.
Oh yeah,
now down to Greg Kotel and the Waterloo sideline.
I did that one night. Greg had me do it that one night. You guys were covering the game, and I went out and walked the sidelines and talked to some of the fans. It was a lot of fun. But you're right. It was like with Jimmy, I'm working the last 8 years. I haven't done a game in the last year and a half or 2 years with Finger Lakes 1, and their experience was going to North Rosewood. I drove home doing 6 miles an hour because we got that snow that hit about 20 feet outside the high school. And Jimmy said it took him a while to get home.
That was it for you, though.
I went in the next day and told Jimmy, I'm too old for this stuff. I can't deal with this stuff. Back in the old day, I would drive through snow. Me and Mary used to go to games, Geneseo for sectionals, and you look out the window. I can't do it anymore. So. But the beauty of working with Jim, and just like you say, with his talent of being technical and so forth, understanding how to do, we'd get out there. He'd have 2 or 3 member team plus his camera guys doing these games, streaming them. I would literally get out of the car, go in, the headset would be on the table, put it on. He'd give me all the information, tell me how do you want to start, and that was really good. It takes a lot of pressure off the play-by-play and the commentators because those were the good old days. And Dave, as you look back on it, I got to give you guys credit because I was thinking about it before the show today. In all the years we worked together and all the games we've done together, I don't remember too many call-ins for sickness. I really don't think about you guys not. There were times where we had sniffles and we were gagging a little bit in the booth, but we were there for games. It was amazing.
Sometimes multiple games.
Oh, it was amazing.
It was just raw, and you were just.
Yeah, because
because you enjoyed it.
Because I sat with Jack.
For the love of the game, as they say.
I would send Jack and Dave a note before the basketball season or football season and say, want to add a game? Maybe you'd say, hey, I wanted to see this game, or Dave would say, let's do this one, and we would try to collectively put the game together, and we'd add one once in a while if we had to. I think what I enjoyed was the fact that, and Greg obviously was there, but you had to have people show up, because. And I remember snowing. Dave drove in from Ovid. You drove in sometimes from Clyde. And by the time we came back from a game, you had to clear the snow off the car to go home, And that's not easy to do.
It was for all the money.
Yeah, right, for the big paydays, yeah. But we did get WSFW jackets, right? Yeah. At one time. So that was
still got mine.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that football, the advertisement? We took the picture. I was hiking the football to you. It looked pretty silly.
Oh, yes.
But some of that stuff.
Well, speaking of the WSFW jacket, I need to share a quick story with his area. I don't remember the convenience store. Jack, I don't know if Jack was out, but it was Greg and me and Dave for sure. I was going out there and I got some snacks, Dave. I broke down. I was going to buy some chips and some sodas. And I know you were Diet, if I remember correctly. Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke?
Yeah.
Diet Coke.
I remember those. So I'm walking down the aisle, and I see two ladies, the owner behind the counter and the lady up in front, talking to her, and I'm aisle 3 getting some chips. And I got my WSFW jacket on. It's got dog hair, and it's got WSFW Sports in the back. All of a sudden I hear this lady say, "Are you going to go to the game today?" We were out there to cover the game. I don't know. I may listen to it, but I don't like that guy, the guy that's on the morning. I'm literally 8 feet from her. And she goes, and I go to myself, oh my God. You know, his name is Weber or Weber. He goes, he's so arrogant. I tell Dave the story. Well, they all know you're there. So that's what they all feel by. Here I got this stuff in my arms. This woman is ripping me about, I just don't like the guy. Never did. I think he's going to call the game today. I don't like him. So I said I could either drop the cookies or chips and skirt out the door, or go up to the counter and make him feel really good. And I decided to carry my stuff up. And as I walk up, the lady turns to me and sees dog. And I turned my back on purpose to get some gum, even though I didn't want it, because I wanted to see WSFW Sports. I thought she was going to have the big one. She goes, "Oh my God, you're that Weber guy?" I go, "Yeah." I said, "I heard what you said about me." I said, "I'm pretty happy about it because I don't mind it." She goes, "Alicia, listen." She goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I always thought you were sort of arrogant on your show." I go, "Me?" So anyway, long story short, Dave would have, I think it was Dave's aunt. So anyways, ripping me to shreds. And I said, "Can I get your name? We're doing a game in an hour. To get your name and name of the store." And they gave me, and Dave may remember it. I talked about them. And they met me. I met them. They weren't fans of mine, but I got their names. Wish them well. One lady had an anniversary or a birthday coming up. I mentioned that on a shout out. Jack, the next time I went in there was freebies. Free chips and free soda, because I sent a shot. That's how it worked out. But this lady was destroying me. Like, okay, I've heard it before. Come up with some new lines. Well, Greg, as you think back on all the times we had together, I got to think, without bragging, with this team, we had probably the best sports team in the area, without a doubt. No, we had the experience. We had the different slants from Jack on the Clyde area and the Wayne County area, and Dave, of course, well known in the south end of the county. But I think, Greg, if you think about it, we really had a well-oiled machine. We did. Quite a few years.
We did. And congratulations on your retirement, 50 years. I want to get that in before we end. And I also want to bring up the fact that for many, many years, Harold Weber raised a lot of money for Camp on Seattle.
Oh, yeah, I was going to bring that up. Yeah, I mentioned that's pretty proud of that.
How many years did the golf tournament go on?
15.
15 I was thinking.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I will say thank you to all the people that played. I was fortunate to use as a source of all speed ahead with my radio show. Because you have a radio show, there are a lot of people that listen to you. And again, some people may not like you, but they listen. And I didn't really care if they liked me or not, as long as they tuned in. And the first couple of years, I told Mary we're going to have a guys golf tournament. In the first year, true story, I think we had 5 foursomes, only men. 20 guys. Teed it up, had a couple of drinks, dinner, went home. Gave $150 to some Women's Hall of Fame, maybe. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't much. Second year, 8 foursomes, all men. Jackie Norcutt and a few of the ladies sent me a note, and they said, "Why are you just inviting men? What about women? They want to play too. We'll play in your tournament because we all know you're on the radio." And give Suin credit. He allowed us to have the van out at First Tee at Silver Creek and Sunny Falls Country Club. We tried to go to different places. And I sent it to Mary and myself. We started working on this in January. As it got bigger and bigger, we raised $115,000 in 10 years for Camp on Seattle. About 115, 120 grand. It was the Dave Barnick. It was these people that came every single year. What we gave away first place was a lamp worth about $20, $30. Mike Ryzak, one of the best players that Jimmy knows, shot a 65 at Silver Creek. He got a $40 lamp. Bert Serling
from Augie's.
Yeah, Bert Serling came in his first year, dying to get invited because it was invitational by me. Got invited. First year out, sitting on top of the Club 86 That's where we had our banquet there in the Franklin Hotel in Waterloo, the previous. Sterling gets his name drawn for the 32-inch TV. First year, and they were not happy. I was like, but no, I'm glad you brought that up, Greg. It was probably one of the most satisfying for me and Mary that put this thing together. We had a great committee. Dick Denard, who has passed on. Oh my God, Red Gwynn, Tony Charismi. Oh my God, he passed on.
Well, what was the number though? How many golfers toward the end?
Oh, toward the end. Oh my
golfers,
God,
wasn't it?
The last year, you're correct. We had double shotguns morning and afternoon, 220 players, 130 on a waiting list. It was amazing.
But you would interview them on the radio
on
the first tee as people teed off.
Yeah, George Sewin. I went to George and told him about this. George played in it. I said, how about the van? Yeah, take it out there. When? All day. He literally, remember, park it right there by the first tee at Silver Creek and at Seneca Falls Country Club. And it was phenomenal. But after that big turnout with almost 200-some golfers, I looked at Mary. I was at Gould's. My responsibilities were increasing, and I looked at her and I said, "Geez, I don't know if we can keep doing this. It was just so much work, so much." And made the decision to bow out. But we'd raised like $120,000. And I think the key point of that, I want to make sure everyone understands, some of the committee members wanted to switch that and not go to Anciawa every year. If you've ever been out to Camp Anciawa in Nova, Dave will tell you it's phenomenal. And it did a lot of people do a great amount of work for some kids that aren't as well off as we are. And I took the committee because it was like mixed. We had like 8 or 10 on our committee, and like 5 or 6 wanted to stay with Anciawa, and 3 or 4 wanted to switch it the following year. And I said, listen, I talked to the Rotary Club in Waterloo, and I said, you guys get a bus, put us on that bus. I want the whole committee to go out there. And we did go out there and walked around and showed what they did. And the next vote was 10-0 for Anciawa to continue. That was several years before I ended it. But, hey, it was probably one of the most proudest moments that me and Mary can think about of all the money that we raised. And, it's the raffle tickets and the sponsorships and the fact the van was there. It's just a fun day, and we tried to make it as much fun. And believe it or not, Doug Brown, who Jimmy knows very well, Mark Hilwa, the Birdman, Booty, and
Ed Boudreau.
Ed Boudreau, and Jimmy, who's won the championship down there several times, the foursome. They were bugging me to get in the field, and I got him in there. And I can't remember the fourth one. Isn't that terrible? Steve Hyde. They wanted to get in. They heard it was so much fun, so they came. They were playing somewhere else, and they came in to play in the tournament at Silver Creek. They paid their money at the first tee. It started to rain. 3 holes in. It rained, and it rained, and it rained. They got over on number 15 off the back tee, and it was coming down in buckets. And we didn't blow any horn because there was no lightning involved. Oh, lo and behold, one of them said to Doug Brown, let's go in. And Doug said, nope, Weber invited us. We're going to suck it up and play. And they played. They looked like drenched rats when they come up the 18th. But they were soaked. But that's the way the tournament was. And I felt bad I haven't given up. But there was a time where you just had to move on, unfortunately. So I guess, guys, before I give my closing remarks, I just want to thank you all for being a part of my life in the broadcasting world. I know this is not the end. I'm sure, Jack, I'll be over and I'll see Dave and I'll see Greg. And, of course, I'll see Jimmy a lot. And I appreciate everything you guys have done for us. And without you guys, I wouldn't have been any good at all this stuff. So thanks a lot for your support.
Well, thank you for giving me a chance, and thank Ann Kay for picking my tape out. I really, it was a very, very great 18 years that I did this. And one quick thing too is we were so fortunate of the great teams that we were able to cover. Clyde Savannah football, basketball, South Seneca girls basketball, Minders boys state championship, Waterloo girls. I can still see those free throws rolling out and dropping out, and Waterloo girls losing by 1 point. We had some great teams, which helps us get psyched for the games, plus our sponsorship. So we had a great era.
And Dave, you had the chance of calling some great games too.
Oh, so many. More recently on Finger Lakes One and the job Jim does in promoting high school sports and the Lady Falcons, among others. Recently, Mid Lakes, the Minders boys. I treasured that team. And when we started doing the girls basketball games, now nobody would think second of that. Any less of that now, but at the time it was innovative to cover girls basketball games, and how special those Minders Waterloo teams were back then, the girls teams, and the rivalry they had and the crowd, and you got that going. You initiated that, which was outstanding. But before I go any further, and we could talk, it wouldn't be a bad idea to just have a round table sometime.
That'd be great.
We could do that, but I just want to kudos to Mrs. Merriweather, first and foremost, for her tolerance, among other things, throughout the years, and the great support that she's been.
That's right. Second of you.
Oh, I know.
To you, Mary.
Yeah. Hey, that's right. Yeah, and tell you what, when I started, Samantha was this big, so she went through a lot to support me through those years.
You didn't even tell the Arrow story either.
I didn't get to that. No, we'll forget that another time. Greg, thanks a lot for being part of it, buddy.
Again, thank you. It was fun, and maybe I can get you to come up and do some Hobart William Smith Statesman and Herons game.
Hey, you never know. All right, give me a call. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my close. How do you sign off? How do you sign off after some 50 years? It's not easy, but I know full well, without this team that is to my right and to my left, Jimmy, here in the studios of Finger Lakes One, we would never have been considered the best. I don't recall them missing many games due to colds, weather, etc. They were gamers, so I picked some good ones, didn't I? Even in lousy weather. I used to put up the yearly schedule and play with their input. Too many triple headers, we would all agree. Those Friday night, Saturday afternoon, and Saturday night games are really tough, but we sucked it up and did it. Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Without them, we could never have done any of this. Thanks to all the athletic directors, all the coaches, all the people that welcomed us to their school. And finally, thank you for listening or watching like you are right now. God bless you all, and my last thanks goes out to my family, wife Mary, daughter Samantha, and granddaughter Izzy. Their support and love has been unmatched. See you down the road. Take care.